In this video, I want to talk to you really quickly about what outlines do for us. Outlines are something that you're probably very familiar with. You have done outlines both probably before you came to seminary, or surely you've done them while you're in seminary. But we take a particular approach to them in the New Testament department, but there are some general things that would be really helpful to get in your mind as you think about why we're doing this exegetical outline before we move to the particularities of how we do it. So let me give you an example. Let's say that we've got a grocery list and I am headed to the grocery store and I'm going to buy certain things. This is my grocery list. This is what I have written out. This is, for example, let's just kind of use a New Testament analogy. This is the text of my grocery list. But you'll notice that there is a logical arrangement to it that enables me to think it through. So let's kind of look through this and figure out what that logical arrangement would be. Now, clearly, the way we're going to think about this as a grocery list is we're going to think about areas of the grocery store that we're going to go to. So I could make a very good argument that my first division ought to be the word fruit, and then apples and bananas and grapes all fit underneath that. So I can go to the fruit section of my store. Now, here's the way you have to think about this. Did I write the word fruit originally? Was that in the text of my grocery list? No, that's a logical arrangement that I have added to it that is accurate, that conveys information about it, that helps me think about it, but it's not there. The word fruit doesn't necessarily exist, but we would all acknowledge that that's a fair way to summarize those three things that I have at the top of my list. We could think as well about the next two. We can see lettuce and carrots, and so we're probably thinking produce or vegetables. Let's be more specific. Let's say fresh vegetables, and then lettuce and carrots fit underneath that. I'm going to even add some bold. Let's make this really clear that here we've got, some larger divisions, and then I can shop for my particular things underneath those divisions. You kind of get my point. Did I write fresh vegetables in my list? Was that part of my text? No, but we would all agree that that is a logical, fair, accurate way to summarize that part of my grocery list. And then we can continue to do the same thing. So for example, under frozen pizza and frozen peas, I might say frozen goods, and I head over to the freezer section for those. Let's make that bold. Let's group Clorox laundry detergent and fabric softener. We'll call those household products. And they all fit under that. They're going to be organized in that section of the store. And then lastly, we've got napkins and paper plates, and I'm going to organize those under paper products, which are a particular aisle in my grocery store. So here's the point. What have we done to our list? Have we busted it up? Have we disorganized it? Have we gone against the author's intent? No, we've actually done quite the opposite. We have organized it. We have made it more understandable. We have communicated even more about it that is perfectly accurate and appropriate based upon what's on the list. And that, in a nutshell, is what we are going to do with an outline of the biblical text. Our author writes a text in such a way that they are communicating information. What we are going to do with an outline is organize that information in such a way that it communicates clearly, that it connects the things together as they should be connected, and then explains it in an even better way than it would otherwise. We're not adding meaning. What we're doing is clarifying what is already there by using the outline structure. Now, it's pretty easy to understand how this process works with a grocery list. Let's show you an example that's a little bit more involved. So here are several statements about my family. This is the text of what I have written. You'll notice that it is just sentence after sentence, but it kind of helps me prove the point. I love my wife loves me. I love my kids love me. My family worships together, my family eats together. Sometimes my family argues, sometimes my family deals with grief. We always stay strong and depend on each other. Now, here's where it gets a little more challenging. What you'll notice is, if you think this through, is there is a logical arrangement of how all this fits together. What I can do is I can add outline kind of statements above each of the particular points, and organize them to where they fit properly together, where I explain them by showing the outline arrangement. So let's kind of think about how this works. The first two statements deal with the relationship with me and my wife. I love my wife loves me. How might I summarize that in a way that is logical, that makes good sense, that explains what's there? I might say something like this. My wife and I have a loving relationship. That appropriately summarizes those two statements, and they then become subpoints underneath that statement. Here's where you have to really think this through. In my original text, did I say my wife and I have a loving relationship? No, I did not say that. What I've done is I've added some logical structure to this in order to communicate and explain what's going on in the text. You could then say the next one, the next two. I love my kids love me. That's my kids and I have a loving relationship. Now, did I use the word relationship in my original text? No, but that clarifies and explains what's going on in that text. And this is where it gets really even more interesting. Take a look at these two statements. My wife and I have a loving relationship, and my kids and I have a loving relationship. I could bring both of those together underneath a single statement. My wife and my kids and I create the Buer family. I might not use that term. I might say something like, my family has a loving relationship. And then this becomes a subpoint under that, and then these continue to be subpoints under that. This becomes another subpoint, etc. You can see what I'm doing. I'm adding logical steps, logical pieces to bring everything together and to create the outline. And again, I want to reiterate, did my original text have the word family? No, I have added that, but it is a clear, accurate representation of what's going on that helps me focus and explain what the original text said. Let's just kind of play through and let's think this through. My family worships together. My family eats meals together. That might be something like my family spends time together. Perhaps a word like quality time might be appropriate for those two activities. So that then gets moved over to be subpoints. And then how about this last statement? Sometimes my family argues. Sometimes my family deals with grief. We always stay strong and depend on each other. I'm going to do this way. I'm going to create a statement that summarizes these two statements, these sometimes statements. And we could say, sometimes my family has hard times. That appropriately summarizes those two statements. And then you'll see I have this statement, and then I have this statement. Those are logically together because we have hard times, but we stay strong. And so I might say something like, my family stays together even in difficult times. And now I have to change my indentation to indicate how everything lines up. Now, I realize I've gone through this pretty quickly, but here's a couple of things that I want to help you to see. First, all of my original statements are there. I have not obliterated them. They become details, they become supporting points. I have added additional statements to organize and to clarify, and then I have arranged each of those statements into a logical, hierarchical order. So, for example, you can now see my outline structure. Roman numeral 1. My family has a loving relationship. Roman numeral 2. My family spends quality time together. Roman numeral 3. My family stays together even in difficult times. Point A, my wife and I have a loving relationship. Point B, my kids and I have a loving relationship. Subpoint 1, I love my wife. Subpoint 2, my wife loves me. Subpoint 1, I love my kids. Subpoint 2, my kids love me. Whoops, I got a little out of order on that in terms of the tab. But here's my point. You can see immediately how the outline arises out of these details. I'm not superimposing it. I'm looking at my individual statements and figuring out how they fit and making sure that the logical arrangement then is very clear by adding statements that clarify, explain, and summarize. So here's the way I would encourage you to think about this. The outline structure was there all along. I am simply bringing it out by adding statements and organizing. I'm not adding any new information. I'm not creating meaning, but what I am doing is clarifying what's there so that it can be explained. I show connections. I am making good sense of it in an explanatory way. What this will do is twofold. First, it will help you understand the passage better. It helps you get what the author is saying, what we might call the inner logic of the author's argument. But then it also helps you prepare for explanation and exposition. As you know, we oftentimes do not simply blurt out the individual lines of the text. We actually talk through the particular things that they are arguing to make sure that they're clear by summarizing and restating in a way that makes good sense and is accurate. So these are two key things I want you to know about what we're going to do with the outline. Now, we've got some specific steps that we're going to take, but the basic way of building an outline is just like what I have said. We're going to have a list of statements drawn from the clausal layout. We're going to organize and synthesize them to ultimately create the outline. All right, so now what we're going to do is move on to the actual PowerPoint for today, and then we'll move to the class exercise.